You're listening to the Screenmen Society Podcast, where nothing on screen will ever go unseen. Here's your host, Jack Clayton.
What's going on? Welcome back to the Screenmen Society Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Jack Clayton. We've got a great show for you today with two giant conversations, so be sure to stay tuned for that. But first, let's go ahead and introduce who we've got today. First off, there's the Booster Gold fanboy himself, Kevin Burke.
Hey, guys.
How's it going?
Next up, you know him, you love him. He's a regular on the podcast, is Abel Velasquez.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
Hey, what's up, man? Good to meet you.
Thanks.
Yeah, but that's not all. We also have a special guest with us today. He's a fellow podcaster himself. You can go check him out on Auto the Real. Ladies and gentlemen, Ray Strunk. Ray,
Hey,
thanks for being here.
Oh, of course, man. I'm excited to be. You said special guest. I appreciate that.
You're our very first
This is
guest.
the first time I've ever been like a special anything, so
Yeah.
this is good.
You're our first guest, so it can't be more special than that,
Well, we're
A lot to
coming
live
out,
up to.
We're coming out with a bang here, all right?
without a doubt.
Yeah, but please listen to my podcast, Art of the Real.
Definitely. All right, before we get into our first topic, I want to quickly plug our YouTube channel. While it may be small at the moment, we at the Society of Screenmen are working to produce great quality content, whether it be skits, fake trailers, movie reviews, or even highlights from our podcasts. So your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to go on over and subscribe. If you head on over after this podcast, you should be able to check out our review on Jordan Peele's Us. And if you subscribe now, you'll be able to catch a skit that may be heading your way this week. So head on over.
Was that movie good, Us?
Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Is it like compared to
Amazing.
like Get Out? Is it?
Oh, it's.
I think it's better.
Damn.
It's an entirely different movie than Get Out.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
But it's so good. It's just another masterpiece. It's
Yeah.
insane. He takes ideas that people, it's just good. I don't know. Let me just,
It was
Yeah,
very good.
shout out to Jordan Peele, man. He's been killing it.
Yeah.
He really has
Impressive.
yeah, we could talk about it for an hour. So let's,
been. Yeah, that's for another time. All right, so this first topic isn't about a movie per se. In fact, it's not even about a group of movies. It's more about a whole decade of movies. Today we're going to argue what is the best decade of movies. And to spice things up a little bit, I want you guys to give me what you think is the best movie from that decade as well. And Kevin, we're going to start with you.
Alrighty, everyone, look, it's so obvious. I mean, it's like painfully obvious, okay? The 1970s is the greatest decade of film of all time, and I'm going to tell you why, all right? Basically, it started the blockbuster. It started the summer blockbuster, essentially, all right? But not only that, it also has an incredible amount of masterpieces, alrighty? So, yeah, we had Jaws, and that kicked off the summer blockbusters and
Okay.
everything. Star Wars.
Oh,
what else
boy.
do we got? We got Alien. Oh my gosh, just crazy movies that like you can throw them anywhere. It's a horror movie that's also like it's sort of blockbustery. It's a big sci-fi space epic. And then of course we have movies like Young Frankenstein, which is my favorite movie of the 1970s, hands down. Oh man,
Is that your pick?
That's my pick. Yeah,
Young Frankenstein.
Young Frankenstein. Yeah,
Yeah, with Willy Wonka.
Yeah, with Gene Wilder.
hell
yeah,
yeah.
his name is Gene Wilder, right?
Yeah. All right, Ray, we'll go on to you next.
All right. I don't know how I'm going to be able to follow that up. He's starting to convince me a little bit, but, I'm a 90s boy. So I'm going to go ahead with the basic pick that Kevin told me before the show not to pick. I'm going 1990s. And my favorite movie of the 1990s is the one and only The Big Lebowski.
All right. Every single film essay person of all time who dropped out of film school, go ahead and write your film essays about how that's the best movie of all time, all right? And just get out of our face.
Oh, yeah. Ray, Kevin and I have discussed ever since we started the podcast, like, we don't want to be like people who do video essays on YouTube because we feel they're really pretentious. And I'm
Oh,
going to
yeah.
keep this in the podcast because I want people to know that I hate video essays.
Video essays suck.
They really do. Anyway, that's getting off topic.
Wait, so, yeah,
Go ahead, yeah.
would the 90s be the choice of those kind of people, those film buff, film head, like video essay guys?
totally.
Some of
Damn,
them
how do
are.
I change my
Totally.
No. Keep it. Be
Yeah.
different. Yeah.
But Jurassic Park, though, people? Is that?
Yeah.
go with your gut.
I seem a little unsure. Forrest Gump, that's kind of overrated. Toy Story, dude. 1995. There it is.
Toy Story's your pick?
That or The Big Lebowski. I'm going to go half and half on that.
All right, half and half sounds good. Abel, we'll go on to you.
So I chose the 1980s. I think the 80s had so many great films in terms of like horror, in terms of comedy, and in terms of like a lot of different style of film. When you see stuff like that came from the 70s, I think in the 80s they made them bigger and more ambitious. So for me, I think my movie is actually Aliens, because I love Alien a lot. I think it's one of my favorite horror films. But Aliens took it from this like suspenseful, like psychological monster horror and turned it into this big sci-fi action movie that still was just as good as the first one, but gave you a little bit more on the table, which I think was really impressive.
Dumb question. Which is the one where the alien comes out of the stomach on the? Is that the first one or the?
That's the
Aliens?
first
The
one.
first
Yeah.
one.
Oh
yeah.
damn! I'm going 70s.
Yeah.
That's the greatest
Hey,
scene.
listen,
in
you have a great point though. The 1980s, I think it's highlighted as the decade with the most iconic sort of characters. Indiana Jones, Empire Strikes Back came out in the 80s, and then obviously like Back to the Future, E.T.,
Right.
all those like Spielberg classics too.
little
Stuff
Top
like
Gun action.
Yeah, Top Gun.
Oh, yeah.
Forget
And
about
like
that.
the Breakfast Clubs. and-
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
Breakfast Club.
John Hughes movies, yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, just crazy. But I think it lacks on those masterpieces. It doesn't have as good, like, in the 70s there's The Godfather Part 2, Clockwork Orange, you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Like, it has those, like, it started the blockbusters up, but it also has, like, those movies that are like, oh, man, this movie's like, whoo, win 10 Oscars, blah, 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 you know what I'm saying? So I think the 80s kind of lacks on, it's top heavy. It's top heavy with like blockbusters and, not so much, little in-between films that are regarded as like, some of the greatest films
Sure.
of all time.
I mean, that's fair.
Well, I'm going to prove you both wrong because I'm going with the 2010s for my pick because we are not even done with this decade yet, and we've still managed to have some of the best movies of all time come out. We just had Us, we've had Get Out, we've had a plethora of Nolan films, we've had Jesus.
You almost got it.
Yeah. We've had the Marvel Cinematic Universe start in this decade. We've had so many things start in this one decade. It's been insane just how in less than 10 years we've managed to possibly have the best decade of movies. And for my pick, I'm going with Chris Nolan's Inception. It came out in 2010, but it still manages to possibly be the best movie of this decade.
So how would you feel? Do you think that now in the as we move forward, like oversaturation of movies plays an issue in like quality overall? It's like a quantity over quality thing because like
really
now
is, yeah.
everybody and their mom can make a movie now.
That's
you know
true.
what I mean? And do you think that adds to like we have more opportunity to create better movies? Or do you think that waters down the whole movie pool as it is? Because when you look back to the 70s and 80s, I mean, there are some really big, just standout movies.
Mm-hmm.
And in the 2010s, it's kind of like, a flood of movies. Like, you
Sure.
can't single out too many movies.
That's true. Yeah, I think it really depends because you've had misses, you've had hits, you've had in between. So it's really hard to say. I don't know. I think one of the big reasons I chose the 2010s was just what we've been able to accomplish with special effects, cinematography, stuff like that. Stuff that you may not have been able to produce in those earlier days. And I'm not taking anything away from any of those, but just based off those accomplishments alone, I feel like we've been able to do bigger and better things.
Yeah, like a standing on the shoulder of giants kind of situation.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, the landscape has definitely changed. Yeah, I think we can all agree on that. However, by your logic, shouldn't each decade that comes, after this one be the next best, decade of movies?
I wouldn't necessarily say that because we had the 2000s, which was a weird decade for movies.
It was. I agree. I mean, it did. I will say this. Okay, so in the 1980s, it was top heavy with blockbusters, and it doesn't. There wasn't very many. The 90s was like the opposite. There was tons of intricate like masterpieces that were more thoughtful, like Good Will Hunting.
Oh, I'd change it. That's my movie in the 90s. 100%.
This
Good
is
Will
one-
Hunting.
Yeah,
I go back and I change it. Good Will Hunting.
yeah, like Forrest Gump. You know what I mean? There's tons of 90s films that are like they're like regarded as like, oh man, this is like one of the best movies of all time. And excuse me. The 2000s, like as soon as it gets into that era, there's like, there's just like this wave of like, I think Lord of the Rings sort of kicked it off of like, these epic war type movies, and those were awesome. I loved it, like Troy, Kingdom of Heaven, what else, like The Last Samurai. Those are great, and obviously, like, you know, the new, like, visual effects at that time, you know, allowed for, like, big battle sequences that you couldn't really pull off before without, you know, guys standing in bushes throwing arrows out, you know, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I kind of get what you're saying. The 2000s was kind of weird. It relied heavily on reboots and remakes.
But a lot of franchises, like Harry Potter was during the 2000s. You
Yeah,
had a lot
that's
of
true.
horror films. Like zombies were hugely popular during the 2000s. You had like Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah, the zombie craze. Oh, kill me.
But there were also some standouts. I'm looking. No Country for Old Men came out in 2007.
That's true.
And that's a fantastic movie. And There Will Be Blood, Daniel Day-Lewis's best, I think, movie.
Yeah,
And
that movie makes me cringe, but yeah, it's
cringe in a bad way?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, just
Well, Kevin, based off what you said at the beginning, your pick for the 70s is based a lot off of just summer blockbusters. But you haven't really talked about any other movies other than the summer blockbuster.
well, you see, that's not true. See, Young Frankenstein is a great, you know, it's a comedy, you know, it's like a satire piece, you know, it's making fun of, like, you know, the old classic Hammer film horror films, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, Bela Lugosi, you know, Christopher Lee type stuff, you know. So it's a movie that's sort of, in other movies that have come out in the 1970s are sort of like that, like Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Okay.
Grease. What else came out in the 70s? Superman. So iconic. It's like the first like great superhero movie came out in the 70s also. Mad Max. Some great horror films. Obviously, we talked about Alien, but Carrie came out in the 1970s. So good. Jaws, that's kind of a horror movie, but it's more of like a summer blockbuster type one, you know. Taxi Driver, Clockwork Orange, Apocalypse Now, and obviously The Godfather Part 1 and Part 2. I mean, like, the 70s is, like, unbeatable. Like, you can't even, like, what are you going to do? Like, what are you, like...
What impresses me about the 70s then, from what you were mentioning, a lot of those movies, you know, Superman, other of those, were, like, movie companies are still banking on those franchises now.
Oh, yeah, totally.
40 years later.
Exactly, yeah.
That's impressive to me.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So it's got staying power. The 1970s has proven, I guess, a lot of those franchises have the staying power that they're still able to make blockbuster films based on those franchises now, and that's impressive as hell.
That's right, yeah. And I want to talk about it, too, sort of like in the 70s, I don't know, in the 60s, you know, you had some great films come out and stuff like that, but we saw this transition to more like violent, you know, type action movies, like for the first time really in like film history. So like I think a good example of that is like Dirty Harry, and that is one of like my favorite like, you know, Clint Eastwood movies. You know, it's a lot of people love that movie. It's a great movie, but I think it's a great example of that diversity of the era, you know. It kind of there was like a sort of a transition into okay, like a rated R movie can be this now, you know, and we can have like this amount of blood, and it can, you know, still be regarded as a good movie instead of just the movie was so so much blood and
Yeah, that was a good.
That was a good one.
That was a good little impression.
yeah.
Kevin, I'll throw this at you. We've talked about what we think the best movie is. What was the best year for movies in your decade?
The best year for movies in my decade?
Gonna make you think.
That's kind of hard. I mean, I think you could easily make an argument for. I don't know. That's a tough one. I gotta think. Come back to me on that one. I gotta think about it for a second.
I think we all got to think about it, to be fair.
That's a bold ask.
I think it's different because at the beginning of the decade, there was more of those like artsy pieces that were just like, you know, they're regarded as, you know, well, they're not just regarded.
You were still coming out of the 60s, which was very artsy with what they did.
Yeah.
Was The Graduate a 60s movie?
I think The Graduate came. Wait, The Graduate might be a 70s movie. I don't think that came out.
I don't know.
I think it came out early.
I love The
I think it
Graduate.
came out in the early 70s. The Graduate's great. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good ass movie.
It's a great movie. Oh man, let me think. That's so hard. The 70s is really, really. There's like a good movie every year, man. It's really hard to narrow that down. I think that's a pretty.
Abel, you got anything for best year?
I think 1985 had
85.
a really good set of movies. It had The Breakfast Club came out, The Goonies came out, Raiders of the Lost. The Goonies, Breakfast Club, a lot of those movies came out during the 1985 that are, and like Back to the Future, like really big, like action.
Those are like,
kind of,
decade-defining movies.
Yeah.
Because I think, for me at least, when I think 80s movies, this Breakfast Club immediately comes to my head. And because it is so of its era.
Right.
And I fucking love the Breakfast Club.
Yeah, that movie's it's awesome.
60 Candles also.
Oh,
I mean, it came
yeah,
out
Pretty
2
in Pink.
years later.
All those John Hughes
Yeah.
movies are just, they're just, man, that era, they just paint a picture
I
of
was
the
gonna
80s.
say,
It's just so incredible, man. Like, there's no movies like that for the 90s or the 2000s. Like, the 2000s, now that I look on it, the 2000s are kind of wacky and weird. Like, the style of clothing that people
I was
wear.
going to say, but 2000s was more defined
Yeah.
era-wise by, like, TV shows. You know what
I
I mean?
agree.
Like, when you think of the 2000s
Totally.
in media, you think of, like, Friends. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
I
it's
guess
a little...
Yeah.
Because that's a very, like, defining... Like, that's very of its era. That's
Yeah.
Friends. But, like...
Friends was its biggest when it was in the 2000s, I
Mhm.
guess. Yeah, like peaked in like 2005 or 2004 or something like that. I don't know.
In the 80s also had movies like Beetlejuice. That
Okay.
is still very popular. The Shining came out in 1980, which is some people's favorite horror film. And that's what I really like about the 80s is like when you go through a lot of the films, like different genres have so many great big movies. Like during the 80s, you had Nightmare on Elm Street that came out during the 80s. You had The Thing came out during the 1980s. Poltergeist came out in 1982. Predator, 1987. So a lot of these big that are now franchises like started in the 80s and had really good ambitious ideas of like how to move forward. Because like during the 1970s, like I think Halloween kind of kicked it off where it was like, ooh, like very arts style type of horror.
Which came out in 1978. That's right, Halloween.
Um,
The godfather of slasher horror films.
and then I think, but during the 80s, it was sort of like, how do we make these movies sort of different in style and in substance? And I think that's what you really got through horror films. You get a lot of these coming of age stories during the 1980s. The Karate Kid came out in 1984. So like a lot of these big like favorite movies that really come out pretty well, I think.
Yeah, I see your point for sure. I mean, that decade is good, but I mean, it's not as good as the 70s. So, yeah.
I'm going to have to... I mean, Top Gun, though.
Top Gun?
That's my only answer is Top Gun.
Top Gun is why the 80s is...
It's specifically the scene in Top Gun when he, after the volleyball scene. A lot of people point to the volleyball scene in Top Gun. You know what I mean? Because that is, that's legendary in its own right. You got playing with the boys going on, and they're smacking each other's butts. They got the jean shorts. But the scene directly after the volleyball scene is my favorite scene. When he's going on a date. Tom Cruise's character is about to go on a date. He shows up to the girl's house, but he's like, first, can I take a shower at your house? That part gets me. And he's just taking a shower at her house before their date. That's the best scene.
That is pretty good. I will say Top Gun, I mean, Val Kilmer is one of my favorite actors of all time.
Okay.
I have a special place for Val Kilmer, like, deep somewhere inside me. But I will say I think that movie just has points just for him, for Iceman alone, you know what I'm saying? Like,
that's true.
Plus, the movie plays Danger Zone 3 different times. There's nothing better than that.
I mean, I despise that song.
What?
But yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's a horrible song, but it's so
Yeah.
Top Gun. Like, it fits so well.
Yeah. I don't know.
It is so campy.
I used to
and
like
so-
Kenny Loggins a lot, but I just can't listen to Kenny Loggins anymore, man. I'm sorry.
Do people like... I mean, do people like listen to Kenny Loggins? Like sit around and just like, here, let me pull up Spotify. Let me
Yeah.
Google Kenny Loggins.
I'll be honest, Danger Zone is like the only song I feel like I know of his.
Yeah.
So.
Well, he's got Playing with the Boys,
True.
which is also, that's my favorite song from that movie by him. But then there's, what is the big song in that movie that's not Kenny Loggins? Hold up.
There's Take My Breath Away.
Take My Breath Away. Holy shit. Yeah, that's a good song. That's a song I would listen to outside of just watching Top Gun.
Yeah,
Take my breath away.
Yeah,
that's so
good.
good.
So yeah, we didn't really get to you, Ray, about what you think your best year is.
Well,
your decade.
I'd say the easy answer from what I was looking is like 1994 probably, because that's, Pulp Fiction, Shawshank Redemption, Forrest Gump, and The Lion King.
Oh my gosh.
So that's got to take it.
Wow,
That's
what
a good.
What a year.
What a year.
Yeah, The Lion King is fantastic. Shawshank Redemption, a lot of people say greatest movie of all time.
Yeah, a lot of
I mean, I don't stand on that, on greatest movie of all time.
I think it's great.
But
I think it's
great.
phenomenal.
Yeah.
Of all time, maybe. I don't know.
That's tough.
I'd have to.
I'm very hesitant to say anything's the greatest anything of all time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because then you watch it and you're like, wait, this is the greatest we have. Like, I don't know. That
it's
just
so
Right.
it's so hard, yeah.
Yeah.
But then, not to mention The Santa Claus starring Tim Allen.
Dude, that's the best one right
Yeah,
there.
good point there.
Yeah, I mean, just end the debate now.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you guys aren't convinced by now, isn't that the premise of that whole movie is like he kills Santa Claus on
He
accident?
kills Santa
So
and
he
has the-
becomes Santa.
Yeah.
He murders Santa, and then he just takes his shit, and then
I-
he's Santa Claus.
I love that.
Yeah, it's funny because like every Christmas people go back to Christmas movies, and the people that go back to Santa Claus are like, yeah, this makes no sense
Yeah,
at all.
But it's so good, though.
It
Like,
really
are you
is.
trying to tell me that you wouldn't watch the hell out of that movie? That movie's
Oh, that
so
started
good.
Tim Allen, man.
really
And
did.
I love the implication of that. That every Santa has killed the previous Santa.
Yeah.
So that means Santa will forever be like a murderer that's just
Which-
trying to cover up his crimes.
Which you have to assume because the elves, when Tim Allen shows up, they don't care. They're just like, yeah, you're Santa. Like,
like, oh,
let's
okay.
go.
Yeah.
Like,
Just another day. Santa got murked.
And they're all kids too, so that makes it even weirder.
I love
well,
it.
there's that scene with the elf girl, and she's like,
What's her name? Judy?
yeah,
Judy.
and
Judy.
she like
Yeah.
puts like
The
this
hot
like
cocoa?
like the hot cocoa,
The cocoa
kind
mix?
of
You
hit
guys
on
remember
type
this
of
movie
thing.
a lot better than I
And then
do.
man.
she's like,
She's
oh.
seeing someone in rapping.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And she's like, whoa. She's like, wow. Because she's like, I'm like 100 and something years old. And she's like, you look really good for your age. And it's kind of like one of those jokes that's like, you get why it's there, but also you're kind of like, that hasn't aged very well.
I think that was a total like '90s joke. Like I don't think that. Yeah, that wouldn't really fly.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
today.
that wouldn't
like,
last.
It's kind of That's kind of weird,
That movie
isn't
would
it?
get
Like,
canceled.
yeah.
The hashtag canceled
How
on
did
Tim
they?
Allen.
What was like? How did Tim Allen just pitch this movie to him? He's just like,
Oh,
yeah,
I love it.
check it out. Like I'm Santa Claus,
He's like,
but
I
like,
kill Santa.
yeah, like
And then
hey, yo,
he kidnaps his son during the movie. Like the climax, he's just like, yeah, he wants to come with me, so I'll take him.
Damn,
And
I'm
then,
gonna rewatch
like
Santa
his
Claus.
all his
Yeah.
and his parents are like, where'd he go? Because like that's the whole thing is like he comes to see him because he's like, I'm about to give gifts or whatever, and then like the whole thing is his wife is like hesitant to give him because like they're in the middle of the divorce. And
Oh yeah,
whatever.
there's a whole like.
And then
yeah.
he's like, fine, I'll trust you. Go with your kid. And then he takes him. So it's like,
I think that Neil, the like stepdad of Charlie, I think
Everybody-
Neil is like the best character of all time. Like he wears like terrible sweaters and stuff. You know, like that's so good. Like he's literally
Would it-
like good. Like,
Would it be like a psychopathic move of me to watch that in like the middle of March?
I mean,
like watch the Santa Claus
Probably
in the
not.
middle
I
of
think you're
spring.
good. I think
You
you're
think I
good.
could get away with it? Okay, I might go watch that.
some
Yeah.
people watch Christmas movies year round. I mean,
Which
That's
is
weird.
ridiculous.
Christmas in July,
Unless you're
people-
watching the Santa Claus for the reasons that we are, you shouldn't be watching Christmas movies until the day after Thanksgiving.
at most.
At most, yeah.
facts.
For my year, it was tough for me to pick, but I think I'm gonna go with 2017 because you had movies like Dunkirk, Get Out, Blade Runner 2049, Logan, Baby Driver, which was one of my favorite movies, War of the Planet of the Apes, Shape of Water, Kong Skull Island. I think is the most underrated movie of that year.
Has that got Jack Black in it?
No, that's
that
that's the 2004 2005 King Kong.
I'm way.
That's the Peter Jackson.
Yeah.
I'm a
King
full
Kong.
decade.
Which
off.
is also really good, but Kong Skull Island. No, that's the one with Sam Jackson, Tom
Okay.
Hiddleston, Brie Larson. That one was really underrated. I thought I had a lot of fun watching that one.
I
Was it-
have no idea how that movie did not make more money at the box office.
true,
I am
yeah.
I'm still like baffled by that. Especially the same thing with like Tarzan. Remember when like Legend of Tarzan came out?
I love Legend of
Yeah,
Tarzan.
I think that movie was like it was so
good.
it wasn't great, but
wasn't great,
It was
but-
an awesome little Tarzan movie. You know
Exactly.
what I'm saying? He's fighting apes and stuff. What the heck? It's got Samuel L. Jackson in it and Margot Robbie and like Christoph Waltz as the villain. And that
I don't
movie
know. I didn't even see this. I don't.
It didn't even make that much money. Like
really
I don't even
didn't,
I don't
which
even know
is a
how.
shame.
Maybe because I haven't heard.
I think it's
like,
because Phil Collins wasn't thumping the soundtrack.
Oh
and
my,
so
That's true.
gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but
get back to movie soundtracks. Dang, Phil Collins on Tarzan.
It is weird though with 2017 though. It had some of the best movies, but it also didn't make much money.
No.
A lot of movies flopped regardless of quality, like Blade Runner did. So it was weird because I'm looking at some of these movies.
Blade Runner was good too.
Oh, it was
Yeah.
great.
Yeah,
man. Oh.
Ryan Gosling. Right?
And because I did my article over the box office, I know the top 3 movies were The Last Jedi, Beauty and the Beast, and Wonder Woman. Those were the top 3 movies of 2017.
Okay, Beauty and the Beast beat Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Dang. Okay.
Oh yeah,
By
dude, Beauty-
like 40.
yeah, that movie.
$1 million?
No, yeah, that movie made $1 billion
Yeah.
at the box
worldwide.
office.
I
Yeah.
don't understand
Yeah,
why.
Beauty
I
and the
didn't
Beast,
like it.
yeah, I mean, you didn't like it? It was better than the cartoon.
No,
I'm
that's
not a
false.
I'm not a fan of the original Beauty and the Beast.
Oh, that's a hot take.
no,
That's
no,
a really
I'm,
hot take.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Like I think
Yeah,
it's
think-
okay, but like the same thing with Lion King's mid. Like it's not even. I don't know. Yeah, like Lion King, it's mid, dude.
No.
Like the best Disney movies of all time. Like that. I think they're overrated. I'm
Why
not
say
gonna-
something so controversial yet so brave?
There's nothing brave about that.
There's
This is
nothing
wrong.
brave. That's
Dude,
this
no,
is wrong.
Lion King.
Your opinion is wrong.
Lion King is great, but that
There we go.
I still think
No,
that
don't end it there.
no,
End it there.
Lion
That's
King
all.
is great.
it's overrated. All right, let's just.
We'll table this discussion until the live
Yeah.
action comes out, and then we'll.
Overrated. Yeah,
Yeah.
why would they make a? What's the point in this? It's just like they're taking an animated Lion King movie and they're just making it CGI. So it's like live action.
Well,
except
did you
it's
see the
not.
Jungle
That's
Book?
exactly
though?
what it was. Yeah, and Jungle Book was really
I
good,
liked
too.
the new Jungle Book.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
That was good.
Yeah, but-
Yeah.
That was cute. It made me. Yeah.
yeah, it was, but
It was very cute.
that story is not very good. Yeah. All right. Anyway, let's,
Anyway,
Just-
let's go ahead and wrap this up real quick. Everyone go around, give one last final thought why you think your decade is the best.
Alrighty, well, I'll start things off, okay? The 1970s is the greatest decade because it was balanced, all right? It had masterpieces, it had blockbusters, it was epic. It started Star Wars, it started Rocky, it started, Superman, what more do you want? It had The Godfather, Clockwork Orange, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Young Frankenstein is the greatest movie of all time that, like, people... like just for some reason just act like it isn't, but yeah, the 1970s. I don't know how you guys are gonna top that. I mean,
I'll follow up. 1980s. I think, yes, the 1970s. I think had started this kind of new renaissance in a way of film, like taking it a step higher. And I think the 80s, seeing what the 70s did, they were able to create more. You had like sequels like Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back. You had Aliens. You have a lot of these big sci-fi movies. Ghostbusters came out that year. Goonies, E.T., Back to the Future, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, The Terminator, Die Hard, Gremlins, The Karate Kid. Huge, big movies that I think go in a different set of genre. It's not just one specific one. There's a good spread of every single type of genre that you could think of. And I think coming from the 80s, a lot of these movies still today, I think, have significance and really bring, trying to make remakes of them. And so I think that's why I think the 80s are really great and a really good showcase for movies.
I've got 6 words. The Santa Claus starring Tim Allen. Next.
That's a fair point.
dude, I don't know what to say to that. I mean, you said it all, man.
Yeah. No, yeah. I'm just going to say the 2010s have had some of the biggest moments in cinema, whether it be something new that Nolan has done or the start of the superhero renaissance that we're in. There's just been so many different things that I feel like the 2010s have been able to accomplish that maybe we weren't able to do beforehand. And so I don't know. That's just why I think that would be. Does anyone else have anything else to say about that?
Well, thank you guys for admitting that I won. So I appreciate that. I thank you guys all for conceding to the Santa Claus starring Tim Allen.
Dude, hey.
Leave comments on the podcast. Like, obviously, you have to agree that Santa Claus makes the 90s the best.
Yeah.
Hey, leave your comment. Tell me what your favorite scene from the Santa Claus is.
All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get into the next topic of today. But before we go, I'm going to take a moment to plug our website again because, hey, we got a website. It's pretty great. If you don't know, the Screenmen don't just compile of who all is here on the podcast. Some of us live in an entirely different city, so you may be missing out on a whole section of stuff that's perfect for you. In that case, head on over to www.thesocietyofscreenmen.com, check out stuff there, and even leave a nice comment for them. And with that, we'll be right back. All right, and we're back with the Screenmen Society Podcast. Hope you guys are doing well out there. We're about to jump into our second topic of the day. So earlier this week, it was announced that the deal had closed and Disney is now the owner of 20th Century Fox. Now, there are a lot of ways to interpret this deal, and this is very much not the case of what has been said can be said already. Because I feel like it's an extremely important topic in the realm of entertainment today. So that's what we're going to do is we're just going to discuss our whole thoughts on this whole ordeal. And Abel, you actually wrote an article on this. Go check it out at www.thesocietyofscreenmen.com. So I want to get your thoughts on it first.
Right. So I think the merger is really interesting because ever since it's announced, there were a lot of differing opinions. The first thing that everybody thought of was like, wow, this means like Marvel finally has X-Men and Fantastic Four, which is great because it elevates the MCU as a whole, because now for the first time in like since its creation, it now has pretty much the whole arsenal of characters to really play with and expand the MCU.
Why did it not have them in the first place? I'm clueless on that.
They sold the rights way back ago.
Yeah, Marvel Studios wasn't a thing, so they just sold all their the rights to their like heroes to like random movie studios like Universal and Sony and Fox.
Marvel was cracked for cash basically, and they needed money, so they sold off Spider-Man to Sony, X-Men, and
they almost went.
to Fox.
Can we talk about how they almost went bankrupt in the early 2000s and almost got bought out by DC? I just want to say that.
Anyway.
But yeah, so like that's the main reason why they didn't have those properties, and Fox had two of them.
And so they just never sold, bought them back?
They couldn't. Because Fox wouldn't give it back.
Okay.
Because if you know Fan Four Stick,
the
reason they only made that movie was because they were gonna lose the rights to it.
Oh, so they just had to pump something out. They were just like,
we gotta. Yeah.
Holy shit! I saw that in the drive-in theater, and I actually left during that movie. I had to leave during the movie.
So
that's the only movie I've ever gotten up to go pee in.
And so like that's what is really exciting about the Disney merger is like that'll be a possibility, but at the same time, this has a lot of repercussions for other movies and other shows that are under Fox, because when you think about it, Fox at the very least, like they didn't do a lot of things great, but like one of the big things on movies they gave us Logan, which was the first really mature like rated R movie, and they also gave us Deadpool, which changed like the rated R for this new generation, because rated R movies have started to fall out of popularity. One, because everybody knows it's not going to make a lot of money, so people will just drop to PG-13 and get a lot bigger audience. But Deadpool was the first movie that was like, no, like Ryan Reynolds was like, this got to be rated R. This character cannot be due justice in a PG-13 like hold. And so what does that mean now under Disney, who has been notable to be like really brand friendly, like let's make this non-violent or non-controversial as possible? And so having these big like violent movies, like how are they going to do that? Fox has a lot of stake in television shows. They're going to now have control over The Simpsons, This Is Us, Modern Family, American Horror Story, and Homeland.
And I'm pretty sure my favorite TV show, Atlanta, the Donald Glover show, I think that's Fox as well.
Right.
So I wonder what that's about.
And so it's going to be like, what does that mean now that Disney controls them? Are going to have more in control over those shows? Possibly, possibly not. Fox also had some stake in Hulu, which now Disney owns, so like Disney now has a bigger stock into Hulu, which is going to be something interesting to talk about. But also like
they basically own Hulu now. Like,
and it's not just that, but like they now have controls to Sky Studios, which did Ice Age. So they have now another animated studio under their belt. They have a huge stake into the National Geographic, which has a huge international audience for some like reason, but
no company should be that big.
Yeah, it's just dude, it's wrong. This is bad. This is not a good. Anybody who thinks this is a good thing is sadly mistaken. This is horrible.
Yeah, I mean there are positives and there are negatives.
No. There's like one positive, and that's Marvel gets all their stuff back. That's it.
Sure.
That's the positive.
And the original Star Wars films will actually be able to be released because Fox actually had the distribution rights of the original.
Okay, well,
Star
to be
Wars
fair,
films.
this whole thing, I blame this whole thing on George Lucas, okay? Because he's the one who decided to sell Lucasfilm or whatever to Disney in the first place. And that was, like, one of Fox's, like, biggest, like, properties, obviously. Like,
So he got the ball rolling on
So
this
he's the
whole mess.
one who initiated this whole thing. So, George Lucas, if you are listening to this podcast, I just want to say... Yeah. Anyway, so I think it's horrible. I mean, you guys can agree, right? This is horrible. I don't.
Well, I'm not. Yeah, I'm anti this big of a company, regardless of like the industry.
Right.
Like just as a personal thing, just as like just my personal
because
beliefs.
you don't like monopolies.
Yeah,
right?
no, like
Right.
that's just historically bad, and it's like bad for
Yeah.
competition. It's
Yeah.
bad for small businesses. It's bad for.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, independent film companies are going to struggle. Maybe I don't know.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's like I don't know. That's
Yeah.
where the best stuff comes. I don't know.
I made the joke that this is just another Infinity Stone for Disney.
Oh yeah, you're not the only one who's done that. I've seen
Yeah.
that everywhere.
Because it's like their control over so much. Because like another thing for television wise,
scary.
Fox has a wider range of sport channels, which Disney will now combine with ESPN
Yeah, like Fox
and a bunch
Sports.
of other.
Oh no.
And so that'll be something. But yeah,
Damn. Yeah, this isn't cool.
I know though that they can't get Fox News or like that type of
Oh, that
stuff
would be so
because
funny.
they already have like ABC News and a bunch of
Okay.
other stuff. So under like the U.S. government, that is actually the definition of a monopoly. So like they can't technically
Okay.
go into that.
That would be
those
so
areas.
funny.
Um,
Disney, Fox News presented by Disney.
Dude, oh my gosh.
There's some good possibilities there. That could be some good skits or something.
But yeah, like the overreach is just so big and so massive, and at this point, it just makes like, what is it that Disney isn't gonna do?
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
Every movie's gonna be so. Every dollar you spend at the movie theater is gonna be going into the pockets of the Disney billionaires now.
This is why Warner Bros has to step up, man. They got
They're
it.
next.
No.
Warner
No,
Brothers
no,
is
no,
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 they're
no,
gonna-
no. Time Warner is not.
Here's what's going to happen is that Disney is going to pick at the bones that is Sony right now. And then right after they're done with Sony, they're going to see Warner Brothers in their eye line. And they're just going to go full charge. And if they get their way, there's nothing that Warner Brothers is going to be able to do about it.
You think Disney's just gonna like Godzilla their way through the movie industry? at
But
this
I
point?
don't feel like they really needed anything from Sony. They already got Spider-Man. So
Well,
like,
they don't have everything.
well, they have at least the thing that's the biggest
True.
importance for them.
Sure.
Like they could go after Sony, but like really, what are you gonna get? I think the reason that they got Fox was because it gave them bigger access to television. Because that was the one pigeonhole that Disney wasn't good in. Because ABC over the past few years, because of the cut of cable, has downgraded their subscriptions to their television show channels, and so that helps them. And because of the stake of Hulu, now it'll add a big plethora of support for their television series, which is crazy. Yeah.
Well, the end of the world is upon us. So I mean, it's whatever you guys want to talk about.
I've also seen that it's resulting in a lot of layoffs.
Oh, yeah, layoffs. Yeah,
a
totally.
lot of layoffs.
I hate that.
4,000 jobs or something.
That's
I think
bad.
even more than that.
This thing is bad, like, and it reaches beyond movies, man.
No, yeah,
It
definitely.
reaches beyond movies. It reaches beyond entertainment. Like this is. I mean, I could get political with this shit. I don't like this at all.
Yeah, this is.
I do
bad.
not. This is the stuff that I am like firmly against as a person.
Yeah.
So screw you, Disney. And like, what's scary about this is they're so big. There's nothing you could do about it.
Yeah.
People are losing jobs because I don't know. I don't like this. But at least hold on. A24 Studios, you know that?
Yeah,
Like
A24,
Lady Bird
yeah.
stuff? Is that owned by anybody bigger? I'm like trying to find that out.
I
'cause
don't know.
I want to have at least like a little bit of hope.
Yeah,
somewhere
hey,
that good movies can be made
hey.
by people that aren't Disney.
Yeah, A24. They've produced some really nifty little movies. Like, wait, what was it? Hereditary.
Yeah. And then they've got Midsummer.
Good Time was good. What was this last one that just came out? Was this?
The last one was Hereditary, I think.
It was okay.
It
They
might
had
have
mid
been.
'90s, the Jonah Hill movie. I haven't
Oh
seen that
yeah,
yet.
yeah. That was supposed to be really good. I didn't even. get to
Eighth
see
grade.
that one.
Let's see.
Oh, 8th grade was an A24 movie?
Lady Bird was an A24
Lady Bird, yeah.
movie. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So, and from what I can tell, I mean, I could be completely wrong, but it doesn't look like they're owned by anybody big. So,
It literally their first line is like it's an independent film
so hey,
company. So
shouts out A24. Please keep running. Please keep doing your thing in the
Yes.
face of giants
Yes.
staring down at you.
But with all the traction that they're getting, how long until Disney does say, hey, they're doing some good stuff over there, we should get in on that too?
Make them an offer they can't refuse, kind of thing.
Kinda, yeah.
In that case, I think that someone like Warner Bros. Should step in and like try and buy him before like Disney or something. But I think that's not their MO though. It's an independent film studio. You know what I mean? They want to
Sure.
stay that way.
Yeah, I hope they're
not going to be they're not going to be coerced into a situation like Fox. Fox was just too large and it was too, they had too much debt and stuff. It was just, there's nothing they could do about it.
Sure.
But
dang. this ain't
It
good.
is interesting because not just A24, it's interesting to think of like what other studios could be impacted by this, like smaller ones. Because you have like, what is it, the one that does all the horror films that Jordan Peele just did Get Out with? What's that? Blumhouse? No,
it's Monkey Paw,
Monkey Paw.
which is pretty new.
yeah, that's his new
His new
production
company.
company. Yeah.
That's a Jordan Peele thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Blumhouse is pretty popular though, especially in the horror genre. I don't know who owns those rights. I don't know if it's just a single independent studio. Also.
Universal is what Punched Out is what Jordan Peele is. He's working with Universal Studios. So
So
okay,
there's still-
That's another
we
big
still,
one.
Yeah,
that-
we still got Universal. Like
Yeah.
we still got Paramount. It's not like it's just Disney and then there's like
Yeah.
Warner Bros. And there's like
Yeah.
one other small person. Like this, we still got there's still competition. It's
Right.
just it's just a narrowing. This like what are you gonna do? Like it's
'Cause
just.
Basically, in the next 2 years, Disney's gonna own probably the top 10 of the top grossing movies.
Yeah.
Because like Avatar now is under Disney.
Yeah, terrible.
Which is James Cameron's.
if we ever get Avatar 2, let's be real.
yeah,
The
the
sequel,
4 sequels.
the 4 sequels
The
that
4
no one asked
sequels,
for.
yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy because like that movie the first one took him a long time to even make. So like for him to be like, you know what, we're gonna do 4 sequels.
Yeah, I don't know why. Why would he do that? Why would he
Yeah.
just be like he's so confident that his movies will make $1 billion that he's willing to spend $1 billion. It's crazy.
I
That
love
guy
that.
just don't even- yeah, I don't know.
That is just way too much money to own.
Yeah, it's
Not
nuts.
to be able to just throw around like
It's
that.
wacko.
Right. And like, yeah, Disney's stake, I mean, it's going to be tough because like Disney's control over just films and TV and like the entertainment industry as a whole, because like, they have now resort parks around the world. Like they opened the one in Japan or in China.
They've had one in China for a while.
Yeah,
haven't
I think so. And so like they're starting to grow more internationally and stuff like that. So yeah, this is a pretty big deal. Like, I know everybody wants to focus on just like, oh, what does this mean for movies? But like the big consequences of a company having so much control of big properties essentially means like, how are companies like, Warner Brothers, Paramount, Universal, like how are they going to be able to break through, Disney's like now fort of properties, I guess.
Well, I don't know. I don't think they will be able to. I think these are just some, film studios that didn't do as good a job as Disney as, evolving to their, landscape. You know what I'm saying? Like
totally.
it's with films and TVs, entertainment, anything, it's just a constant, everything's evolving and stuff like that. I don't think, 20th Century Fox did a horrible job of, some of these movie studios are just stuck in that, they're never getting over themselves, you know what I'm saying? Like MGM and stuff like they're not getting over the golden age of Hollywood, silver age of Hollywood, you know what I'm saying? Like they don't know they're not putting themselves into like the mainstream internet stuff and like smartphone,
Right.
Stuff like subscription stuff. They did a bad job, and Disney did a really good job of doing that. And Disney is just a giant, as it is, with
Right.
ABC and all that garbage. So I don't know. It's not good.
And with Disney Plus being announced, like that's gonna be another.
Yeah, I'm not gonna get that. Okay, and you know why? Because Disney needs to chill out. Okay, so I'm not
That's
gonna get
a lie.
it.
You're gonna get it.
No, I'm not. Okay, maybe
You're
my
telling me-
parents will get it, and I'll like use
I'll
their stuff.
use it.
You'll use their stuff. Okay, there's nothing wrong with
I'll
that.
piggyback. It's fine.
But I just want to check it out just to see what it's like. You know, I'm not like gonna watch stuff on there. I mean, like,
Cut to Kevin watching every single animated Disney film.
Well, you guys are being all pessimistic, and you haven't even thought about like the opportunity for maybe a Family Guy Lion King crossover.
Yeah,
now
that's
that we bought those out.
yeah, I didn't think about that. You're right. Yeah.
So I think it's a good thing. I'm changing my mind
Oh, yeah.
because this is going to only be good things.
Changing your mind on the account of Family Guy Lion King crossover?
Yeah, there just opens up the possibilities for Peter Griffin, man.
Dude, I mean-
he can go. He is now part of the Disney universe.
Hey,
And
all,
that's-
all those Mickey Mouse like Bart Simpson crossovers that you guys all wanted as kids, like dude, those are
the ones that you guys
On the
have been
table now.
begging for.
yeah.
Also, I didn't think about this just till now. Like in Wreck-It Ralph 2, they have like Marvel, Star Wars, and all of those. Wreck-It Ralph 3, they can
God.
have Wreck-It Ralph meet Homer Simpson
There
and all
we
those
go,
other guys.
yeah.
I rewatched Wreck-It Ralph 2, which is still really good. But like they threw that a joke because like the princess scene and like all the princesses have like their like nice tropes and stuff. And then they have I forget what her name is, but the one from Brave, which
Merida,
I
yeah.
don't like.
Her name's Merida.
in a lot of ways. But like they throw this joke that she like talks and like nobody else understands her.
Yeah.
And Vanellope's like, is she okay? And they're all like, we don't know what she's saying. She's from the other studio. And I was like, wow, what a deep blow to Pixar. I was like,
Oh, yeah, because
Like,
Brave is a Pixar
it's
movie.
a Pixar movie.
It is. I didn't even know it
Yeah.
was. That's weird.
And I was like, wow, how are you gonna go after Pixar like that after like how much money they've given to Disney from like their amazing movies over the past few years?
Pixar is good. I think
Pixar,
Yeah.
Pixar's money.
They were like the
Yeah.
first of like Marvel's, like, not Marvel's, Disney's
big acquisitions.
big
yeah.
acquisitions,
You-
yeah.
Yeah, it's too
Now
bad.
Disney. Now they
Wait,
have
Pixar used to be like its own thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then Disney.
I thought it was always a Disney thing.
You know
I
the
remember that.
shorts, like
Yeah,
the
yeah,
shorts.
I love that.
That's where they started from. Like they
Okay.
used to make shorts, and then they made Toy Story, and then they were at like these big movies, and then eventually Disney was like, if you can be part of us, and we'll help fund a lot of your other movies.
But wasn't Toy Story also? It was also it was also through Disney, wasn't it, or was it just Pixar?
No, it was a Disney.
Yeah.
It was a
it?
Disney
Okay.
produced
Yeah.
film.
And so
But
I think
they had already bought Pixar by that point.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
So they bought
Yeah.
Pixar kind of like ground level almost.
yeah.
Yeah, give or take. I don't know. Yeah.
But I've always hugely honored Pixar. They're my favorite animation studio.
Oh yeah.
And I think, and like I have my rankings of where I think those movies are, and that's a topic, in my opinion, for another podcast for another day. But like, that is a huge stronghold now that they have Pixar, and now they have Sky, and then they have Disney. So
Yeah.
like have these huge animation studios of like now they have access of like more animated films.
Listen, Disney, die, please.
You don't mean that. You're gonna go and watch every Disney movie that
No.
comes out.
No, I will not. Okay.
I will
Okay.
vow right now to not give a single one of my dollars to Disney.
I will
guys
never
can't
watch
check,
another Disney movie again in my entire life.
I will hold you to that.
Yeah, if I see you at Avengers Endgame or The Lion King, then you're getting called out on the podcast the next episode afterwards.
Spider-Man Far Away from Home.
Hey,
I didn't want to watch Avengers Endgame anyway. What are you talking about?
Star.
Stupid DC fanboy.
Yeah, this is just gonna save me money at the end of the day.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean,
it's
what,
gonna
what's
be good for
what's
my
wrong?
pocket.
I know. All right, yeah. All right, so Disney did a really bad thing, and yeah, there's nothing. We can't do anything about it. So we're kind of screwed right now. But hey,
At least we get the Fantastic Four.
oh, just stop, please. Oh my.
Can we go back to talk about the Santa Claus for a little bit? Give me.
That is a Disney
let's
movie.
talk
Is
about
it a Disney movie?
Let's talk about
Holy shit!
Yeah.
Everything sucks.
Dang it.
everything.
Disney owned us from the beginning.
Well, I'm sorry. I wanted to hate Disney, but
Yeah.
the Santa Claus is part of it, so I guess we have to
yeah,
just.
I'm all in on Disney. If that's the
The Santa Claus 4 will be the only movie that Kevin gives $1 towards Disney.
Dude, the day that movie comes out, hey, Tim Allen almost looks like Santa Claus now. He's kind of older, right?
Yeah, but he's kind of a racist now.
I was gonna say he went off off the alt-right deep end for a while there.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Really?
Tim Allen's alt-right, baby.
He just tried justifying using
That's
the
so
word.
messed
Are you
up.
serious?
Yeah, it's actually very depressing
It really
to
is.
think about.
What?
Tim the Toolman Taylor is now, It was a whole thing. He had his show, The Last Man Standing,
I think
Oh,
so,
yeah.
yeah.
and it got canceled because it just wasn't that good. And
Then it got picked up again.
Yeah,
didn't
then
it?
he was like, "Oh, it's getting canceled because the Hollywood liberals can't stand some good old conservative men." And I was like, "Well, no more Tim Allen for me."
What? No way. Is he still like Buzz Lightyear though? Cause
Yeah, he's still gonna be Buzz in Toy Story 4.
Is he really?
Yeah.
You're gonna let him be Buzz still? I mean,
I think
guess-
they-
Well,
I think
you
they
can't
do
have
not
to,
do
yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think they also did like all the voice recording stuff like before all that.
think
so-
about alt-right Buzz Lightyear.
I don't want to think, dude. That is so. That's like depressed, dude. That's.
He pulled a Roseanne before
He really
Roseanne did.
To supremacy
Yeah, wow.
and beyond.
Oh my
God.
Oh my god, dude, that's so bad. Are you kidding me? No, Tim Allen. Why? Why? He's not even from this. He's not even from the South. I mean, I guess it doesn't have anything to
Well,
do.
do you know the story of like Tim Allen before he got famous?
No. I have
Oh
no
my
idea.
gosh, you guys need to read into this. I'm probably just gonna botch the whole thing, but I'm gonna go for it. You ready?
Yeah, let's
okay.
do it, let's
In
go.
like the 70s, I can pull up a picture of Tim Allen from the 70s.
Oh.
The big old mustache, long hair. He was like a drug pusher, like a major drug pusher. Tim Allen was before he was, and he was doing stand-up comedy and stuff. And that was like his thing. Like that's where he was making money. And he got caught. And this was right after like the war on drugs, like they're cracking down on drug penalties here.
Yeah.
And so Tim the Toolman Taylor, before that, Tim Allen gets caught with way too much cocaine, entirely too much cocaine. And so he's going to get sentenced to potentially like a hard 40 in prison at this point. And so he goes out and he rats on every single drug dealer that he knows. And that's the only reason, because Tim Allen snitched, is the only reason we have Buzz Lightyear. It's the only reason we have Home Improvement. It's the only reason we have the Santa Claus. And I could look more into this. But
How is he still alive? For the love of.
On October 2nd, 1978, he was arrested at an airport. He had 650 grams of cocaine, which is like a pound and a half of cocaine. And he pleaded guilty to the felony drug trafficking charges and provided the names of other dealers in exchange for a sentence. He spent about 3 years in prison in Minnesota, and then he came out, and then he got movies.
I don't know. That's crazy.
Yeah.
How did he not die? Because he's famous. So, I have no idea how he didn't.
Yeah, he's in the public eye
Yeah.
after snitching, which is
I know. That's
Could you
that
imagine-
adds.
Could you imagine being in prison and being like, wow, this is the guy that sent me to prison?
Is the Santa Claus? You see him, the dude who snitched on you. You see him, the Santa Claus. You see him like on Home Improvement. Oh, I love it. I love Tim Allen.
Dude, that is so crazy.
Like,
I
what
can't
an
believe-
interesting guy. I can't believe you guys didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
about our
You're-
boy Tim Allen.
Dude,
You're
that's-
forgetting also he did Christmas with the Cranks
Oh
with Jamie Lee Curtis, which I mean is pretty up there too.
Yeah, that's pretty meta. I don't know if you can handle Jamie Lee Curtis and Tim Allen. I don't even know. It's crazy. Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, this is great talking about Tim Allen. I mean, this is like better than
It's much
You're-
more uplifting than Disney Fox feature.
This is
Yeah.
this is like all I wanted to talk about. I was hoping we'd get into this topic on the pod because I had Tim Allen facts just ready to go, man.
We're just going to have you back every now and then just to pop in with a random Tim Allen fact.
I'll be the Tim Allen update.
Well, at least you can know that if like a mugger stops you on the street and they're like, "Hey, I'm gonna shoot you unless you tell me like 10 facts about Tim Allen."
I've got it, man.
You're just like, dude, Tim Allen. I freaking
he's
know
Are you
that.
ready for this? Sit down.
I can't believe that Hollywood let like a snitch just become famous like that.
That's
though.
crazy.
Like that's all he is he is a snitch. Yeah, there's a whole. I can send this to you.
He's a snitch.
Washington Times article. Tim Allen opens up about time in prison. And I mean, he's apparently a changed man because of it or whatever. Now he's and that's why he's like the Mr. Conservative, like family values guy now or whatever he claims to be is because he's like, oh, I've seen the worst, I was in prison for snitching.
What? Man, he's all right. He's racist.
I don't know about I don't want to just be making those accusations.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like funny to think about, like Buzz Lightyear being,
Yeah, that's
Buzz Lightyear being a Trump guy, but
that's like traumatizing to hear about.
it's
Yeah.
depressing. But
That's the definition of childhood ruin.
Yeah, that's factual right there. Oh
Yeah.
man.
Well, I think that's going to wrap it up for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. I know we just discussed it, but if you can, head on over and check out Abel's piece on it. He worked really hard on it. Anyway, if you like what you heard, give us a like and a follow. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and keep checking back to the website for great stuff. Is there anything that you guys want to plug? I'm sure you want to plug your podcast.
Oh yeah, good. I was waiting for it. Oh, weird that you mentioned my podcast. That was it. Yeah. The Art of the Real. SoundCloud.com/The Art of the Real. It is 3 Wichita State students, and we just clown around, and we've got a decent following so far. We spent a little too much time maybe harassing Brad Pistotnik, but we're doing God's work. It's really, you should check it out. SoundCloud.com/The Art of the Real. We have a lot of local creatives on as guests. We had Max James. I don't know if you guys know Max James. He's made a lot of viral videos in the area, like the green screen Lambo video using Brad Pistotnik's Lamborghini.
Oh yeah.
He made Quick Trip, which is another. He's a rapper, and we had him on for an episode. We had local rapper Wody on. We had Reggie Weber, a YouTuber, on, and we're gonna have Tommy Newport. He's a singer, his singer-songwriter that's actually blowing up pretty big across the country. We're having him on here in a couple of weeks. Check it out. It's a lot of fun. We don't take ourselves very seriously over there, and we don't have a lot of input on things. We don't have opinions. We just talk, and it's pretty fun. You should check it out, and go to Patty Palooza at Wichita State SAE March 29th, headlined by Tommy Newport and Max James. So.
All right. Thanks again for coming out, dude. Really appreciate
thanks.
it.
Oh, of
Thanks.
course. Yeah,
Thanks,
anytime. I appreciate it. So.
And thanks again to everyone for listening, and we'll catch you in the next episode.